Hey, this is Dr. Keith Hersey, and you are listening to the Destroying Diabetes podcast. Hi, thank you, everyone. Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of Destroying Diabetes. I'm your host, Dr. Keith. And I'm just thankful for everybody that listens. And again, I'll just encourage you, please spread the word about this podcast, share it to your social media. Also, just if you would subscribe, so then you'll be alerted when a new episode is available. And we really appreciate all the support that we get, the emails that we get from our listeners, and we pay attention to exactly what issues that you're dealing with, and if there's something that you want to address in a future episode, just look at the show notes. We have the email address that you can contact us, and if there's a certain question that you want answered by me, or if there's a certain issue that you want us to talk about, just let us know and we will respond and work on that. Um, I'm here today. I have a very special guest. I have Jen Cadenhead. She she is an expert. She works with nutrition, and I brought her on to help discuss some issues that one of the biggest things with type 2 diabetes, to be able to manage it and have it under control, is having a healthier diet, just to be able to control that. As most of you know, and if you look at your measure, like your blood sugars, you see they can vary greatly based on what you eat. I know that I have a continuous glucose monitor myself, and I know what things blow up my monitor and which things keep it kind of steady. So that tells the importance of diet, and just making sure that you try to have a healthier diet to be able to better control like your glucose reading. So um, I will just let her introduce herself briefly, and then we will go into some tips that she may have for us to help us be able to better control our type 2 diabetes. All right, Jen, you can go ahead and introduce yourself and anything about your background you would like for us to know.
Sure. Thanks so much. I'm Dr. Jen Cadenhead. I'm a behavioral nutrition scientist, educator, registered dietitian, nutritionist. My work focuses on human diet patterns, food policy, and the relationship of nutrition security to health equity. And I hold the rank of research assistant professor, and I'm the executive director of the Laurie M. Tisch Center for Food Education and Policy at Teachers College, Columbia University. And I'm very deeply interested in helping people with all kinds of health conditions, including type 2 diabetes. Um, yeah, consider my expertise to be deeply steeped in what people are eating, especially the relationship between ultra processed foods and health.
Okay. Well, thank you for that, Jen. I really appreciate that, and like I try to bring on experts that really know this, really know their stuff, and definitely from everything that I've seen and read about you, that you definitely do. So one of the things to first start off with, like if you notice, like if someone is recently diagnosed with like type 2 diabetes, and usually the standard thing that usually they hear from their healthcare provider is like eat better and exercise, and um and that's true, but that doesn't really give people a lot of times a lot of guidance. What would you suggest that, or some tips that people do to just kind of to deal with the diet aspect of it?
Well, yeah, I think it's kind of sad that is the standard advice, without any kind of support. We have a food system that really is kind of sick, and it promotes sick bodies as well. So if you're just telling people to go eat, better and you're not really providing any guidance, that really does people a disservice. A lot of times people, if they're seeing a medical provider, they may also be eligible for seeing a registered dietitian nutritionist. So that's something, and usually type 2 diabetes is covered. Often people who develop type 2 diabetes, not always, have also developed overweight or obesity, and that's also a medical condition which you can see a registered dietitian nutritionist, specifically for it. I would say it's more than just stepping away from unhealthy foods and exercising, and, don't blame yourself for winding up with it, but do take it very seriously. A lot of times it interacts with many other things like not getting enough sleep, being stressed, being in a stressful environment at work, at home, having a lot to do, and that just is just compounded by the food environment. So, in terms of actual foods to eat, people, generally speaking, are eating too many foods that are refined carbs. So all the fried foods that have all the breading on it, all the breads, the desserts, the snacks, you know, thinking about limiting those and eating more vegetables, more fruits, more whole grains is something to think about. But the very first thing I actually would encourage people to do is just try to figure out what you actually are eating. Um, you can use the My Plate, from the USDA to kind of figure out on a day-to-day basis in your typical week, thinking over the course of a typical week, are you getting to My Plate, where it's half of your plates are fruits or vegetables, mostly vegetables, about a quarter of it is a healthier grain, and about a quarter of it is a healthier protein. Of 2 of your 3 meals in a typical day are there, you're great. Most people aren't there. I know that from my research. So, first figuring out what you are eating is a good way to understand what you need to change to move towards that. And then once you realize what you need to change, then work on making that change slowly. Don't make this one more stressor for you. And that's a good place to start.
Yes, that's definitely, and when I work with patients, and one of the first things that we do is just making like for like a few days, like a food diary, just recording kind of everything that they eat before you make any changes or whatever. Just see where we're at. And like you said, that just to implement, not drastic changes, but subtle shifts. What kind of like subtle shifts would you recommend, like someone doing, like that's not so like drastic that it's going to throw them off course?
Yeah, that's a great question too. I would say maybe one of the easiest things you could do is just say, I'm going to add one more serving of vegetables in my day. I'm going to try to get to the point where every day I'm eating just one more serving, just one. Like that, like make it whatever the minimal thing that you actually think that you can do, make that the goal. And then when you get that goal consistently over a month or so, then, work on adding something else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So definitely, yeah, just making like small changes, because like usually you can see, and if you see that you can do that, if you add one vegetable, then this is a thing of momentum. You can go, then it's not such a thing to go up to two, or just have one meal that's mostly vegetables or whatever. and
Right.
and so yeah, so I definitely agree with that, that's the best path. Now, a lot of times what's the thing, and I'm sure that you see in your research that uh, limits or people are not successful in their change because of a lot of times of a like a mindset. They focus so much on what they can't have than rather than what changes that they need to make. So how would you advise someone to deal with that kind of mindset that they get focused on what they believe they can't have?
Yeah, I get if you get there, it's hard to overcome that really. There are many barriers to being able to eat healthy. You may have friends and family who are like, "Well, why are you eating that?" Or it's just a little bit of sugar. Why does it matter? Or like there are many barriers. You might have a just a neighborhood where it's difficult to get what you need. I would say just focus on a plan. Think of the plan and think of the barriers that you might encounter that prevent you from implementing your plan. You might have to readjust your plan a few times until you get to something that actually works for you, but you're the expert of your life. You know what vegetables you like. You know where you can get the vegetables. If that's the goal that you're trying to first accomplish, and you know how to execute it, or if it didn't get executed well, then you have to sit and think, reflect on it. What happened that kept me from getting to this goal? And what are the things that I could maybe do in the future to prevent that from happening coming up? Like, I mean, there are ways to measure diet quality. One of them is the healthy eating index. And I would say I'm probably at a A right now. Like
Mm.
they measure it from A to F.
Mm.
But when I was in much younger,
Mhm.
I was probably where the typical American is. I remember distinctly being that kind of person who loved to eat meat lovers pan pizza, Washington
Oh,
with
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like that was my life.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I had some health issues
Oh,
that made
yeah.
me, like, recognize, like, "Whoa, I gotta
Yeah.
change."
Oh, yes.
Um, but it actually required planning, and even now, I have to, like, work at it. So it's like, I know that the thing that works for me is on the weekends when I have a little bit more time, I think about, like, what does my week look like? How can I get, the fruits and vegetables and whatever I need to get during the week that will work for me, like prep time. I'm really like thinking the whole as much of the week in as I can and as possible. Like, what am I going to do with my leftovers? And how can I make it super easy? So, for instance, I will get the bag salad sometimes, even though the lettuce is cheaper, like to chop up. I will get frozen peas because that's gonna make my life easier to put it into things. Like, it's very individual, but I would just say, make a plan, try to carry it out, reevaluate how that plan worked. If there was something that didn't work, figure out why until you can make sure that and that's why I say try to do it consistently for 30 days because then you'll know, "Oh, my kid, uh, has this, and this that's coming up, and so I can't cook on those days. So I need to adjust to make it something super quick, or maybe it's leftovers that I'm eating on those days."
Yeah. That's definitely like anything that you do, like to be successful, you have to kind of make a plan beforehand so that when something happens, you know how to deal with it. Life gets in the way. Like sometimes traffic may delay you from getting home, and then you only have a short amount of time to eat
Yeah.
before you have to go to bed or get your kids ready for school the next day or something like that. So you always have to kind of have a plan or a backup. Like if I can't do the main thing, that at least I have this available. Yeah, as much as you can to plan ahead to, even like prep, have some staples, healthy
Yeah,
staples on
right.
board that you can, eat quickly or make up quickly without too much effort, just in case if like your main meal may not be able to do it because of time constraints, or something may just come up, child may get sick or something,
Right.
so that you
Or you're
can,
just tired,
yeah,
you
no,
know?
yeah, no, yeah, no, I know, definitely that's a big thing. And I know that a lot of times, I know with people that I work with, it's kind of confusing because it's a lot of, you get so much information. Well, one week something, the news will say, well, this is good and this is bad. And the next week, you need to have, more protein, less carbs. Or then the next week, it's like, well, some carbs aren't so bad and other carbs need to stay away from it. And other weeks, it's like all carbs are bad. Don't avoid them altogether or whatever. What do you think will be the best thing as far as someone trying to negotiate and navigate all the, seems like a lot of times that kind of conflicting information that seems to change from week to week or month to month?
Mhm. Yeah, you raise a really good point. I would say the media often gets things wrong, actually.
Mm,
And nutrition science does change, but not that much. We know that people are just not eating enough vegetables primarily, and vegetables have a lot of fiber in them that help to control blood sugars, and we're getting too much in terms of refined grains. Like, those are the 2 extremes that really, if you tackle nothing else, will help almost every single condition, including type 2 diabetes. So, less of the snacks, less of the fried foods, less of the baked goods, in part because they also contain, they're mixed with other things like saturated fats, and the structure of the fibers are not really what you need, but also the nutrient levels are not what they need. So you get a lot of the micronutrients in the matrix, the way vitamins were meant to interact with the body systems. Type 2 diabetes and not probably all of the different types of diabetes are actually partially, we think, we're not completely sure, driven by inflammatory properties. And those nutrients that you need help to protect the body, drive down inflammation. It's not just like a certain set of magical inflammatory foods. Like, I really hate it when people get marketed, you know, yes, turmeric can be good for inflammation. Yes, cinnamon, sure. But no, it's actually just eating a healthier diet pattern
yeah,
overall.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's one of the things is that usually, like, you can get everything that you need, like said, by just eating a healthier diet, just like I said, incorporating more like vegetables. Now, I know some people, they have, not sure, like, is organic better or not organic, or is there certain things that maybe is better to get organic?
Yeah, I mean, there is a list. Basically, it's like the things that are thin skin. So, like, strawberries would be better organic, but it's better to eat a strawberry that's conventionally raised than to not eat a strawberry, than to eat like a fruit roll up or
Yeah.
a mixed juice. Like, it's much better to eat the whole fruit or vegetable. Um, I would say don't worry so much about whether you're getting organic or not organic if you can incorporate more fruits and vegetables and less of that. More food that you're cooking and preparing from scratch at home is going to be way better for you than anything else.
Yeah, definitely.
And in terms of, like, people getting all of the nutrients that they need, I think that actually is a little bit more complicated because some people do have, certain vitamin deficiencies. Like, a lot of times women may be anemic, like, they just straight up, if they are, menstruating, especially, they may actually be anemic and may need some supplementation with iron. They're older people who are over 50. I mean, I'm over 50, but you may
Mhm.
have a you may have a B12 deficiency, and so that also can cause anemia, and especially Black and brown people, of which I'm in that category as well, you may not be getting enough vitamin D, especially if you're living in certain parts of the country. So, there may be some, um, nutrient needs and some other reasons why you have, a need for specific nutrients. So I don't wanna, like, completely rule those out, but in general, most people are not eating well enough, to be adequately, consuming the nutrients that they need, and part of that is because of, again, not eating enough fruits, vegetables, legumes, whole grains, those kinds of things.
Okay. All right. Well, just thank you so much for all of the advice. I hope that our listeners can take heed of some of the advice that you're giving, and what would be just as basically a summary as far as your general recommendation for people, especially with people that may be newly diagnosed or people that may have trouble controlling their blood sugar.
Mhm. Well, thanks. I would say cook.
Mhm.
That's that's my biggest piece of advice is, start cooking your meals and think about planning your meals and think about, what is it you're actually eating and how can you make small changes to um, be more towards my plate in whatever way that makes you comfortably um, I don't know, eating your cultural foods. You can still do that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jen, for coming in with us today. I hope that our listeners got something out of it. I certainly did, and I think that it's a lot of good information, and I think that the emphasis on trying to make small daily changes than rather trying to make big drastic changes is a lot better to implement to be able to have more control over your type 2 diabetes and blood sugars. And I thank you so much for coming in today to give us some tips and give us some information. And we will also let you know that if anything that you have, available, we will put it in the show notes as well. If people want to contact you, or if they have some questions that they may want to ask you directly, we'll provide that information for them as well. So again, thank you so much for coming in today, and I really appreciate your advice and expertise, and just wish you just continued success. And is there anything else you want to close us with?
Oh, so thank you so much for having me and good luck to all of your listeners.
All right. Thank you so much. And again, thank you for all of our listeners. Like I said, continue to promote our podcast, subscribe, like, share with others. And again, until we talk again next time, we just want you to continue to be informed and be well. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this informative journey. The content of this podcast is solely the professional opinion of the host for informational purposes only. It should not be considered a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If you're experiencing any health issues or concerns, we strongly recommend that you seek the counsel of a qualified healthcare provider before making any changes.